Let's get ready to mortgage. He is the prince of programs, guru of guidelines, master of matrices. He puts the fun in funding. Please welcome Mark, Mr. Mortgage, Eitel.
All right. Hey, guys, my name is Mark Eitel, and this is the Mr. Mortgage Show. And buckle up, guys. This is going to be an awesome, awesome show. We've got some really fascinating data. The top 10 and the bottom 10 places to buy real estate right now in this country. The data set was just released. It was a NerdWallet article that was published. I'm going to share all the info with you, and it's contradictory to the data, if you will. The headlines that we've been reading about this housing crash that's inevitable and the states that are likely to lead us down that path. I think this data is going to fascinate you. But guys, questions or comments are always appreciated and encouraged. So if you've got questions or comments, call or text 855-462-7292. That is 855-462-7292. That is the Anytime Hotline. Jen is womanning the hotline, and she will get your questions on the air for you. If you prefer to shoot us an email, just visit MrMortgageRadio.com. That's MrMortgageRadio.com. Scroll to the bottom of the page, click that email icon, and you can shoot your questions over that way. Jen's giving me the breathe, Mark. I'm wound up today. I'm super excited to be with you. This is my favorite day of the week. I love doing the show for you, so I get a little wound up, and that second cup of coffee doesn't hurt either. But guys, listen, a lot of people are super confused out there. They're like that squirrel trying to run across the road, right? Do I go? Do I stay? Oh, halfway. I just got ran over because I don't know which way I want to go. And I don't want you to be that squirrel. That's why we do the show. We want you to have the data, the tips, the tricks, the strategies, the info that you need so you can make better real estate and mortgage decisions for you and your family. And guys, when I was doing the research for this week, I think often about people who are just living headline to headline, and there's no surprise at how confusing that can be. So I pulled some headlines for you, and I want to read them to you really quickly. This is in a particular order, but not of relevance to anything. But anyway, let me jump in. Refinance applications on the rise as rates fall. Housing starts fell from last month's surprising fast pace. Does inventory really explain home sales slump? Mixed results on year-over-year home appreciation. Prices continue to deter purchasing. Tiny increase ends 3-month drought in pending sales. Affordability continues to crimp application volume. Credit access dips to 10-year low. Mortgage app volume falls as rates top 7%. Shelter inflation pops the builder confidence balloon. Rising rates continue to sideline borrowers. July existing home prices are up, but sales volumes down. Mortgage application volume struggling with higher interest rates. Guys, in that list of headlines, we saw applications up, interest rates down, sales volume up, sales volume down. It's no wonder people are confused. And you want to hear something scary? That's the last 30 days of headlines from one news outlet. We follow all of the housing and all of the financial news outlets online as we research for the show each week. That was the last 30 days worth of headlines from one news outlet. No wonder everybody's scratching their head. Guys, that's a 30-day news cycle from up to down to sideways to, oh my God, where are we going? So you are not alone if you're confused. And if you've got questions, call or text us. We'll be happy to help if we can. All right, let's dive into the list, right? What's that song, Jen? Because your kiss is on my list. Well, your kiss isn't on my list, guys, but hopefully your city is, at least in the top 10 portion of the list. So I know, I am sorry. Jen's giving me some strange looks back there. So NerdWallet, and again, I'm going to publish this to the Facebook page, just released this data set, and I found it fascinating. The best places to buy ranked from 100 to 300. So let's call the bottom 10 the worst places to buy, right? It's only logical. Top 10 best cities to buy a home in right now today. McKinney, Texas, number 1. Frisco, Texas, number 2. Nashville, Tennessee, number 3. Denton, Texas, number 4. Cary, North Carolina, number 5. Allen, Texas, number 6. Durham, North Carolina, number 7. Austin, Texas, number 8. Port St. Lucie, the good old pistol, came rolling in at number 9. Shout out to my Florida peeps. And Gilbert, Arizona rounded out the top 10. Now, why do I find that so fascinating? Well, guys, for months, the headlines have read Florida housing market likely to crash. Arizona housing market likely to crash. Texas housing market absolutely likely to crash, right? Well, the top 10 cities to buy right now today, as per this Nerd Wallet article, based on the real estate market, affordability, and economic environment that exists in that city today, there's a lot of Texas in there, a little bit of North Carolina, a little bit of Tennessee, a little bit of Florida, a little bit of Arizona. Fascinating to me, right? That the states that get all the press about being overpriced are still being touted as the top 10 cities to buy in. Here's the bottom 10. St. Louis, Missouri, Philadelphia, PA, Hartford, Connecticut, Cleveland, Ohio, I want to call it a Peroni. Remember that Italian beer? Peoria, Illinois. God, I had to spit that out. Portsmouth, Virginia. Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Shreveport, Louisiana. New Orleans, Louisiana. And bottom of the list, Baltimore, Maryland. Guys, I would love to know your thoughts on where your city falls in that. If you are in the top 10 or the bottom 10, share your thoughts. Just give us a call or shoot us a text or an email. And if you'd like me to look your city up on that list, just shoot me over your city and state, and I'll see if I can find it in the list for you. But here's another thing I found super, super fascinating in this data set. In the whole spirit of the real estate market in these particular states is going to crash, and all these foreclosures are going to come to the market, right? Here's their list of the lowest percentage of underwater mortgages by city, and then the highest percentage. It's just the top 5 for each of those categories. The top 5 from the lowest percentage of underwater mortgages: Miami Gardens, Florida; Hialeah, Florida; Miami, Florida; Miami Beach, Florida; West Palm Beach, Florida; and Boca Raton, Florida. Man, Florida is looking good when it comes to underwater mortgages. Now, I find this interesting and not surprising based on that bottom 10 list. The highest percentage of underwater mortgages belong to Peoria, Illinois; Columbus, Georgia; Philadelphia, PA; Baton Rouge, Louisiana; Shreveport, Louisiana; and St. Louis, Missouri. I'd love to know your thoughts if you fall on either side of that category. And then this one's fascinating because you hear us talking about it all the time. There's just not much inventory in the market. Well, the fastest from sign to contract, sign in the yard to contract in hand, is Warren, Michigan; Grand Rapids, Michigan; Dearborn, Michigan; Westminster, Colorado; and Richardson, Texas. Guys, the data fascinates me because you can't squeeze emotion into math. The magic is always, always in the math. So I find it fascinating. I hope you do too. Guys, you hear the music though. You know what that means. No more fascination until we get past this commercial break. Guys, sit tight. On the other side of this break, we're going to kick the show into high gear and we're going to dive into a little more of the data and start taking your questions. Sit tight. We'll be right back with the Mr. Mortgage Show.
Here's another 5-star review.
We started our loan with a different company. They said we were approved, but at the last minute they told us there was a problem. I still don't know what went wrong, but thankfully our real estate agent told us about Mark. I was pretty stressed, but it's the perfect house, so we gave Mark a shot. He got it done. I'm not sure what was different, but I don't really care. We even got a better interest rate and with less money out of pocket than the first guy quoted us. It was a great surprise. Yes, I'm happy to recommend Mark and his Mr. Mortgage team.
We don't need no stinking badges. Who remembers that movie? Now, we don't need no stinking down payment thanks to the expansion of Hometown Heroes. Senate Bill 102 was passed into law, dubbed the Live Local Act. There were a lot of housing initiatives packed into that bill, but the most exciting thing, it broadened the availability of Hometown Heroes. That's right, guys. Now, regardless of your industry, you may be eligible for the program. And it's exciting, guys. Just ask Deb and Chuck, who used the program to move into their new house in Hobe Sound, or Veronica, who's out right now looking at properties in Port St. Lucie, and she's going to use it too. If you've got questions about the program, give me a call at 772-266-0555, or check us out online at MrMortgageRadio.com. That's MrMortgageRadio.com. All right, guys, Mark Eitel here, the Treasure Coast favorite mortgage guy, NMLS 1929005.
Here's another 5-star review.
As a realtor, I have a bunch of mortgage brokers to choose from, but I prefer to work with Mark and his Mr. Mortgage team. In this crazy market, there is no room for error, especially on the mortgage side. Mark's team moves fast, keeps everybody in the loop, and makes things happen. They always give my clients a great deal and take the time to walk them through every step of the process. When you're considering a lender, I encourage you to talk to Mark Eitel and the Mr. Mortgage team.
Welcome back to the Mr. Mortgage Show. Call us now at 855-462-7292.
All right, we are back. My name is Mark Eitel, and you are tuned into the Mr. Mortgage Show. And guys, you heard the man, 855-462-7292. That is the Anytime hotline, and you can call or text your questions to that number, 855-462-7292. Jen, my producer, is womanning the hotline, and she'll get your questions on the air for you, or shoot her an email, and you can do that by visiting MrMortgageRadio.com. That's MrMortgageRadio.com. Scroll to the bottom of the page, click that email icon, and you can send your questions in via email. But I want to tear the lid right off of this one. I'm super excited. Oh, before we get to questions, sorry, Jen just handed me a piece of paper. We had 2 people text during the break wanting to know where Salt Lake City, Utah and Tampa Bay, Florida land on that top 300 list. And ironically enough, they're sandwiched together with Salt Lake City being 16 and Tampa Bay being 17. Another Florida city rounds out the top 20. Wow. Man, if you've only paid attention to the headlines over the last year, you'd swear Florida was in trouble, but the data seems to indicate otherwise. Hey, let's dive into those questions. Jen, throw me a question. Are you ready? Okay, go ahead.
CJ sent this one in. I'm technically self-employed, but really I'm retired and want to buy some rental properties. Can I use the landlord loan even though I don't have a job?
Hey, CJ, how do I turn my self-employment into being technically retired? I'm ready, my man. Great question. Yes, with the landlord loan, we're not looking at your personal income. We're looking at the income from the rental property, and that's current income or potential income if you're buying something that's vacant. So we look at your credit and we look at your assets, but not your income. That income piece is based on the income that the property is generating. And you heard me mention potential income. That's if you're buying a vacant property. And in that case, the appraiser, as part of the appraisal, will do what's called a rent comparison analysis, and they'll come up with a likely number for a monthly rent that you'll be able to get for that property. And then that is what's used for the income. So great loan program for people in your scenario, and it would work for you based on the information that you gave me. So I appreciate that question. And we're finding people right now, especially people in that retirement age, who are pulling a little bit of the equity out of their house via an equity line and then going out and buying with a landlord loan an investment property to supplement their income. And it's a really interesting strategy because all you're doing is moving equity out of your current home and putting it into the investment property. So you haven't lost any equity. You just moved it, right? It's like you've got a, Wells Fargo account and you're going to take some of the money out of that and go put it in Bank of America. You've got the same amount of money. It's just now in 2 checking accounts. So interesting strategy. We're seeing a lot of people use that strategy and the landlord loan to start to build an investment portfolio. And another thing we're seeing people utilize the landlord loan and equity extraction is buying a home basically on layaway for their kids or their grandkids. And you've heard me talk about it a lot. people are very, very concerned that their children or grandchildren are never going to be able to buy their first home based on where prices are going. And they certainly have stabilized a bit, but they're holding, right? There's nothing going on a fire sale anywhere in the markets that we serve. So it's very interesting. They're taking the equity out of the property, buying a home, a rental home, putting a tenant in there and letting the tenant pay down the principal, building an equity position for them. So in 10 years or 15 years or whatever the math is, however old Joey and little Susie are, at some point they're going to be ready to venture out on their own. And now they've secured a property for their kids or grandkids so that when they're ready, they can sell that property to them with a gift of equity. We call it first home layaway. And if you've got questions about that, we're putting a whole program together explaining it. But in the meantime, if you have questions, just give us a shout. But we're seeing that happen more and more with the equity positions that people have. They're using it strategically. So great question. Hey, Jen, go ahead and throw me another one.
Joyce sent us an email. I read online about a woman with a reverse mortgage being foreclosed on. Can this happen? I thought no payments are required.
Hey, Joyce, thank you for this question. This is a great question because you're right. There are no monthly payments required on a reverse mortgage, on a HECM. So a lot of people think, okay, well, that's the only way that I can go into foreclosure is if I don't make a payment. So I don't have a payment. How can this happen? Well, with the reverse mortgage, you're obligated to keep the property insured and you're obligated to keep the taxes paid. Those are two places that the note could be called due, which would start that process. Another thing to be aware of is you've got to maintain that as your primary residence. So if you move out of the house to go be closer to the kids and you rent it out, well, they could call the note due and start the foreclosure process. But this is the one that sometimes people aren't paying attention to. If you go in for a surgery and then you're in recovery in an assisted living, and then you get injured in the assisted living and you're there for more than 12 months, that technically can call the note due because you've got to maintain that as your primary residence. That's the trigger point. So be aware of those places that you could technically default on a reverse mortgage. But great question. I appreciate that. And anybody who wants to deep dive a reverse mortgage, you can check out more about reverse.com or just give us a call. Visit MrMortgageRadio.com. There's information there too. I appreciate that question because people need to be aware of that. So great question. Go ahead, Jen. Throw me another.
Ashley sent this one. Is the FSBOzilla thing the same as flat fee MLS service? If not, what's the difference? What are the costs?
Hey, that's a great question. No, it is not a flat fee listing service. We're not putting your property on the MLS. There's no hidden fees. There's no anything. It's a book and some material that's designed to help you go from start to finish through the for sale by owner process successfully. And if you need somebody to approve the buyers along the way, we would love to jump in and help. But there's no fees, there's no catches, there's no listing agreements, none of that. It's not a flat fee MLS listing arrangement. But brilliant question. But if you need more information, just give us a call. I'll be happy to jump on the phone and walk you through the details. And for anybody else out there, go to MrMortgageRadio.com and click on that FSBOzilla link and learn more for yourselves. But guys, you hear the music, you know what that means. That's my cue. We'll be back in a few. Sit tight on the other side of this short break. We'll be back with more of the show.
Tired of realtor commissions gobbling up your hard-earned equity? Say hello to FSBOzilla, the commission killer. FSBOzilla is your free, no-obligation resource for selling your home by owner. Yes, you heard it right. Free. No gimmicks, no catches, just everything you need for a successful for sale by owner process from start to finish. Check out FSBOZILLA.com. You'll never have to show your home to a time waster, tire kicker, or unqualified buyer. And say goodbye to those pushy realtors trying to snatch your listing. No more untimely calls, no more uninvited strangers. Ever wonder who they're letting into your house? Grab your free copy of the book, FSBOzilla, the Commission Killer, today. Keep your equity where it belongs, in your pocket. Sell it yourself, save thousands. Visit FSBOZILLA.com. FSBOzilla, the Commission Killer. That's FSBOZILLA.com.
Raise your hand if you are freaked out by what's happening in the banking world. Well, no, put your hands back on the steering wheel. It's all starting to feel like a house of cards. And what about that 17 billion, yes, billion with a B, dollars worth of bondholder money that was lost in that Credit Suisse takeover? Right now, I'm hearing more and more people talk about a flight to safety, and they're looking at gold and silver and other precious metals, but also rental property. Yep, income-producing rental property is starting to become sexy again. Guys, we've got an amazing loan program called the Landlord Loan. It's an easy way to acquire rental property. If you've got good credit and the assets, we don't even look at your personal income. We look at the income produced by the property. Assuming that it supports the debt, boom, you're a landlord. Check us out at MrMortgageRadio.com. That's MrMortgageRadio.com. My name is Mark Eitel, NMLS 1929005, and my team and I are here and happy to help. Check us out at MrMortgageRadio.com.
Welcome back to the Mr. Mortgage Show. Call us now at 855-462-7292.
All right, we are back. My name is Mark Eitel, and this is the Mr. Mortgage Show. And guys, if you have questions or comments and want them on the air, just call or text 855-462-7292. 855-462-7292. That's 855-462-7292. Or shoot us an email, and you can do that by visiting MrMortgageRadio.com. That's MrMortgageRadio.com. Scroll to the bottom of the page. Click that email icon and you can shoot us your questions that way. Jen is back there running around, but she's also watching the hotline. She will get your questions on the air for you. But hey, let's keep those questions coming. Go ahead, Jen. I know we've got some back there.
Here's a question from Tyler. I heard you talk about blended rates and refinancing last week. It's the first time I've heard about it explained like that. Is there an easy way for me to figure out how much we can save?
Hey, Tyler, great question. I know, right? It's eye-opening when you look at your global cost of debt, right? Because oftentimes we're married to that 4 or 5% mortgage rate, and we're overlooking the 26 or 27% credit cards and 15%, boat payment and all that stuff. So I appreciate this question. The easiest way to do it is add all of your debt and add your principal, what's left unpaid on your mortgage, together. You can use the mortgage calculator on our website, and you can find that at MrMortgageRadio.com, and there's a mortgage calculator link. And do the math to determine what your new mortgage payment would be with all of that together. And then the other part's a little more painstaking because you're going to have to add up all your payments, right? Your car payment, your credit card payments, your truck, whatever's in that number that you just refinanced, right, in that calculator. And then add all of it together and just take the current debt and subtract the proposed debt, and you'll be able to see what you're saving. If you want to talk about how then to apply that savings to principal reduction to see how quickly you could pay the loan off, that's a whole different calculation. I would be happy to do it. As a matter of fact, I would be happy to do the whole thing for you. Just give me a call or shoot me an email, and we can walk through the math, and I'll let you know if it makes sense. And if so, how much you could save. And then we'll do the other piece of that calculation. If you were to take that savings and apply it to principal, how quickly you could pay the new loan off. But I appreciate that question and happy to do the math for anybody, guys. Just call or shoot us an email, and we'll be happy to work that out for you. But thank you for that question. Go ahead, Jen. Throw me another question.
Here's one from Robert. How much down payment is typically required for an investment property and the landlord loan?
Hey, Robert, thank you for that question. That's a great question because if you're using that equity extraction strategy, you need to make sure you've got enough in there. But right now, you're going to be looking at somewhere on the very low side of 15, but I would figure 20 to be safe, to 25% is typically what we're seeing. So you'll want to be able to put somewhere between 15 and 25, but give yourself a little cushion, say 20 to 25% down payment. And that changes depending on the environment that we're in. There's a little bit of credit contraction right now with what's going on in the market. So some of those 85% loans have been pulled back to 80. So that's why I say be cautious with that. But that's a pretty typical range that we're seeing right now today. So I hope that helps. Okay, Jen, go ahead.
Here's a question from Leo. How are rising mortgage rates affecting investment property financing? Are they rising at the same rate?
I'm laughing because suddenly we got a bunch of landlord loan questions. We must have stirred the nest with that one. Yes, everything's been moving upward. So yes, at about the same pace. And if you're curious, usually the landlord loan is somewhere around 1.5%, maybe 2% more, depending on your credit. But there are 40-year and interest-only options available with the landlord loan to get that payment back down so that you're cash flowing each month. So I hope that helps. That's a great question. Everybody should be aware that the interest rates move in the same direction. Not always at the same pace, but definitely the same direction. I appreciate that question, though. Hey, Jen, can we squeeze in another?
Mitch sent us this one. I own a vacant lot and want to build a home. We'll hire a contractor to build the house. Can you explain this type of mortgage? And can you help us with this?
So, Mitch, great question. So you'll hear it called a construction to perm mortgage or a construction to perm loan. There are 3 phases to this type of financing. During the construction period, it acts like any other construction loan, and you draw against the available balance, right? So let's say your lot was worth $100,000 and you're going to build a $400,000 total cost. So you're borrowing $300,000 for construction. And I'm just using round numbers for illustration. So you've got a $300,000 construction loan. It acts like a line of credit. At certain phases during construction, there's usually 5 draw periods, but it can vary. A larger custom home might have more draws built into it. But the contractor will build the pad and pour the foundation in most instances, right? You have a concrete slab is the foundation of the home. Then they'll apply for a draw. And a certain amount of that money will be released to the contractor. Well, at that point, there's going to start to become interest due on that amount. Now, the nice thing is most of the time, the interest required to service that debt during the construction period is built into the loan. It's called an interest reserve. It's placed off to the side so they start pulling the payments out of that, if you will. So during the construction, there's several draws until the home is complete. The certificate of occupancy is issued. And now you're in conversion, right? That's the second part of this. It converts to a mortgage, a 30-year fixed rate, let's say. So you've got construction period, conversion, mortgage. So your first mortgage payment is not due until after that conversion period. And most of the time, the interest necessary to service the debt is built into the loan during construction. So it's a very, very interesting loan program. To answer your question, yes, we can help. We do them all the time. I grew up in a family of home builders, so I actually love this space. I love the idea of bucking the trend, and you see it out there all the time. There's no inventory. I can't find the home I want. People don't want to sell because they have a crazy low interest rate. Well, maybe you could find a lot and build the home that you want. And one other thing to keep in mind when you're talking about how to value the lot in that equation, right? I said the dirt was worth $100,000 against a $400,000 project. So you've got 25% equity, right? That math is how I laid that out. Well, if you've owned the lot for more than 12 months, you can use the appraised value for the property. So if you bought a lot 10 years ago, and there's areas all over the country we can point to where 10 years ago lots were pennies on the dollar, and now it's worth a load of money, that's your equity position. If it's been less than 12 months, they're going to go off the purchase price or the appraised value, whichever is less. So I hope that answers your question. And these are ideas that we talk about all the time, creating your own opportunity. And maybe if you can't find a resale and you don't like any new construction in your area, although new construction is a great place to look right now, maybe building your own home is the answer. So great question. Hey guys, you hear the music? You know what that means? That's my cue. We'll be back in a few. Sit tight on the other side of this very short break. We're going to keep the train rolling, get to more of your questions, and be back with more of the Mr. Mortgage Show.
Are you thinking of selling your home? Don't let realtor commissions eat away at your hard-earned equity. With FSBOzilla, you can save thousands by doing it yourself. Avoid the tire kickers and pushy realtors. Meet Fizbozilla, your free, no-strings-attached guide to selling your home by owner. You're a do-it-yourselfer, and we respect that. No more dealing with time wasters, tire kickers, or unqualified buyers, and definitely no more pushy realtors trying to snatch your listing. With Fizbozilla, you won't have to worry about showing your home to unqualified time wasters. We help you navigate the for-sale by owner process safely and securely. Fizbozilla, the commission killer, putting the power back in your hands and the equity back in your pocket. Visit fsbozilla.com today, Fizbozilla, because you can do it yourself and we're here to help. Check out fsbozilla.com.
So you think interest rates have gotten too high to refi? Well, not so fast. There are several reasons people refinance. Sure, lowering your interest rate is one, but there's debt consolidation, home improvement, unexpected medical expenses, pulling out some equity to go buy an investment property. Heck, I even know of one guy who refinanced his house so he could buy his mistress a condo. But let's jump back to debt consolidation for a minute. I'm working with a client right now. His name is Ben. He's going to refinance his house, pay off a host of credit cards, and 2 truck payments. And yes, his mortgage interest rate is going to go up, but his monthly expenses are going to go down significantly. And that monthly savings is going to get he and his family back on track. Guys, if you've got questions, check us out at mrmortgageradio.com. That's mrmortgageradio.com. My name is Mark Eitel, NMLS 1929005. I host the Mr. Mortgage Show, and we are always here and happy to help. Check us out at mrmortgageradio.com.
Welcome back to the Mr. Mortgage Show. Call us now at 855-462-7292.
All right, we are back. My name is Mark Eitel, and this is the Mr. Mortgage Show. Guys, if you've got questions, keep them coming. We've got some back there, but I know we can squeeze some more in. Call or text 855-462-7292. That's 855-462-7292. That's the Anytime Hotline. I'm chuckling because Jen's waving me off like, no more, no more. We could squeeze in a couple more. You can call or text that number or shoot us an email. Just visit mrmortgageradio.com. mrmortgageradio.com. Scroll to the bottom of the page. Click that email icon and you can shoot your questions over that way. Jen will get them on the air for you. But speaking of Jen and your questions, let's keep them coming. Hey, Jen, what do you have?
Linda wants to know. I think selling by owner is crazy. How do you know who is qualified? And you don't want a bunch of strangers in your house. A realtor is the only way to go.
Hey, Linda, thank you for that. I think I saw your business card on the bulletin board at the breakfast diner, right? You're a realtor, Linda. I get it. I get it. Listen, buy owner is not for everybody. We didn't write the Fizbozilla book with the intent to try to circumvent the value that realtors add. I wrote the book and published the program because of the do-it-yourself culture that we're in. And I wanted to give some people some guidance to see if they could do it themselves. So in a lot of instances, a realtor makes a huge difference, but there are a lot of people that are perfectly capable, armed with the information, that are able to do it themselves. And we both know people try it every day. We might as well set them up to succeed because why not, right? Everybody should win. But I get it. I understand the apprehension. It's not for everybody. And the Fizbozilla program clearly lays out steps to prevent strangers from coming into your house, to prevent all the unwanted phone calls, and to prevent anybody who's unqualified from even wasting your time. So in that context, Linda, I couldn't agree more. But I understand your opinion, and I do appreciate it. So, Jen, throw me another question.
Walter called with this. Are there any grants or down payment assistance programs besides Hometown Heroes? I work in construction, not medical or law enforcement. Is there some program I can use?
Hey, Walter, thanks for that, my man. And we just started running some commercials for the expanded Hometown Heroes because a lot of people miss that, right? There was a bill that was passed into law earlier this year, and it's making a difference for a lot of people, and it could make a difference for you also. It expands the eligibility requirements of Hometown Heroes, so no longer do you need to be a first responder. No longer do you need to be in the medical field. You can work for any Florida-based company. You still have to meet all the other requirements, but now that eligibility is open up to all professional categories, not just that medical and first responder. So Hometown Heroes may work for you. And to answer your question, there are other DPA, down payment assistance programs, that are available, but we're having success with the expanded SB 102, which is the Hometown Heroes, the new version of it, if you will. It was called the Live Local Act and was adopted earlier this year. So I would encourage you to at least look into that, because you might be surprised to find out that you do qualify for it. And it's a great program, guys. It allows up to $35,000 as a grant with 0% interest and no monthly payments required. Now, you do have to pay it back if you refinance, if you sell, or if you quit claim deed yourself off the property. But other than that, you don't have to make a monthly payment against that grant amount. It acts like a silent second mortgage almost. Super, super exciting program for anybody that is hindered by the ability to make the down payment or cover all the closing costs. These monies might make a difference. So I appreciate that question. I'm sorry I didn't bring it up earlier in the show because we just started running a commercial for that. So excited to be part of that program, but I appreciate it. Hey, Jen, throw me another question.
Mia sent us this. I see ads for new construction mortgages in the 5% range. Is this a special program for newly built homes, or is this a scam just to get you in the door?
Hey, Mia, it's not a scam. It is not a scam. It is called forward commitments. So you may or may not be old enough to remember this, but probably 20 years ago, I guess it was, Southwest Airlines was crushing everybody's fares, right? Nobody could compete with Southwest Airlines. And one of the main reasons they were able to do that was they bought a bunch of fuel contracts. So they had already secured all the fuel they were going to need at a far lower cost. And then when fuel costs rose for everybody else, they were locked into that low fuel cost, which is a big part of running the airline. And they were able to pass that on and really dominate and capture a lot of market share. In the mortgage world, that's called a forward commitment, where a builder might lock down a certain amount of money with a lender and buy that rate in advance, if you will. Just like you and I lock individual mortgages, they locked blocks of money, right? And some builders might have even sold their own bonds against the mortgages they were originating. But my point is, they secured that money when it was lower, and they're working through it right now. So that's one of the ways they're able to do that. And the other way is the builders, just like sellers can do to buy interest rates down for their buyers on an individual basis, a lot of times the builder is giving a concession to buy the rate down. So those are the two standout places. And I said it a little bit earlier in the show, that because of those reasons is why I said what I said, that new construction is a place to give some serious consideration to right now. So I hope that helps. I don't think it's a scam. I think they're working through those forward commitments, and at some point they're going to run out of that cheap money and they're going to be in the same boat as everybody else. So, but brilliant observation, and I appreciate your question. Hey, Jen, toss me another one.
Brandy emailed this. Are we able to refinance our VA mortgage to pay off debts? How much can we increase the loan? Thanks.
You know I'm going to do it, Jen. You know it. Brandy, you're a fine girl. What a good wife you would be. Who is going to have that song stuck in their head the rest of the day? Every time we get a Brandy, I can't help but sing that song. Good news, you can go all the way to 100% with a VA refinance. So you might be surprised to learn that. And I would welcome the opportunity to walk you through any questions you have about your individual circumstance and make sure there's enough equity in there to accomplish your goals with debt consolidation. But great question. I appreciate that one. Hey, Jen, let's keep them rolling. We're doing pretty good. Go ahead.
Bonnie sent us an email. How do we access the money with a reverse mortgage? I've heard we can get monthly payments, but are there other options?
Hey, Bonnie, great question. So the monthly payments are one option, right? Each month they send you a check. You can get a lump sum at closing, or you can get, for lack of a better word, like a line of credit, right? You have this available amount of money and you can draw against it as you need. Those are the three ways that you're able to, in most cases, access the equity from the reverse mortgage transaction. So monthly payments, lump sum at closing, or that line that you can draw against. And in some cases, you can do a combination of that. So you can take some money at closing and leave the rest of the money in the line so you can use it as necessary. And a lot of people do that. They'll knock out some remodeling and then leave all the rest of it off to the side just in case they need it later. And the cool thing is that money that's in the line is your money. It's earning interest. So it offsets a little bit of the expense against the accrual of interest with the reverse mortgage. I hope that explains it, and I'm happy to dive deep with you if you would like to have a conversation about it. So just reach out to us, and I'll jump on the phone myself with you and walk you through it. Hey, Jen, do we have time for another question?
Paige sent this. We sold our home in Connecticut and leased a home in Florida. Can we buy some investment properties with the landlord mortgage if we don't own a primary home?
Hey, that's a great question. And I know a lot of people get wrapped around the axle with this. They think in order to buy the investment property, they need to have their home, already own their home, if you will. And that's not the case. You can be renting, or in this case, leasing, right? And then buy an investment property with the landlord loan. So brilliant question. We have done that several times. And yes, you can absolutely do that. And we'd love to help you if you need help with it. But that's a great question. I appreciate that one. That one gets everybody wrapped around the axle. And I understand why. The landlord loan is an interesting product with some wonderfully liberal guidelines to help you become a landlord. So great question. Hey guys, you hear the music? You know what that means? That's my cue. We'll be back in a few. Sit tight on the other side of this very short break. We'll be back with more of the Mr. Mortgage Show. Hey, it's Mark Eitel, host of the Mr. Mortgage Show, and I'm going to interrupt this commercial break to ask you for a favor. If you know any friends, family, coworkers, or the guy in front of you at the grocery line who's talking or thinking about buying or selling or refinancing real estate, I'm hoping I can count on you to help me spread the word, introduce them to me, to the team. You can do that by simply sharing MrMortgageRadio.com. That's MrMortgageRadio.com. Guys, it's Mark Eitel, NMLS 1929005. Now, back to the commercials.
Here's another 5-star review.
My wife and I own a small business. And the way our accountant file our taxes, we don't show much income on tax returns. Because of this, it looks as if we don't make the money. This was a problem for our bank when we applied for a mortgage. But not for Mark. He verifies our income by using our monthly bank statements. Mark and his Mr. Mortgage team made a big difference for me. Yes, I am happy to recommend Mr. Mortgage Mark.
We don't need no stinking badges. Who remembers that movie? Now, we don't need no stinking down payment thanks to the expansion of Hometown Heroes. Senate Bill 102 was passed into law, dubbed the Live Local Act. There were a lot of housing initiatives packed into that bill, but the most exciting thing, it broadened the availability of Hometown Heroes. That's right, guys. Now, regardless of your industry, you may be eligible for the program. And it's exciting, guys. Just ask Deb and Chuck, who used the program to move into their new house in Hobe Sound, or Veronica, who's out right now looking at properties in Port St. Lucie, and she's going to use it too. If you've got questions about the program, give me a call at 772-266-0555, or check us out online at MrMortgageRadio.com. That's MrMortgageRadio.com. All right, guys, Mark Eitel here, the Treasure Coast's favorite mortgage guy, NMLS 1929005.
Welcome back to the Mr. Mortgage Show. Call us now at 855-462-7292.
All right, we are back. My name is Mark Eitel, and this is the Mr. Mortgage Show. And guys, if you've got questions or comments, just call or text 855-462-7292. That's 855-462-7292. That is the Anytime hotline. And remember, you can text that number also, or shoot us an email. Just head over to mrmortgageradio.com. That's mrmortgageradio.com. Scroll to the bottom of the page, click that email icon, and you can shoot us your questions that way. But I'm going to try to rip through the rest of these questions, so I'm going to toss it right over to Jen. Hey, Jen, throw me a question.
Connie emailed this. We've just started thinking about selling and are reading the FSBOzilla book. How do we get a value report for our house? Thanks for everything. Hey,
Connie. Great question. You are very, very welcome. I'm hoping that you find all the information in the book that you need. Guys, if you're wondering what we're talking about, that's FSBOZILLA.com, FSBOzilla. That's the book and all the how-to guides that help you sell your home if you want to without a realtor. So, great question. There should be a link on the last page. Hey, let me make it easy on you. Go to mrmortgageradio.com and hit that free value report link, and then you'll just give us your address and your email. And with that information, we can run that lender value report and shoot that back over. And that should get you started with at least a very good idea of your value. And then if you want to talk through what improvements you've made to the property and how that may affect the value in the appraiser's eyes, we can have that conversation with you. Just go to mrmortgageradio.com and click on that free value report link, and it'll take you right to the little form, and we'll do the rest for you. But brilliant question. Jen, throw me another one.
Here's one from Derek. I've seen lots of news about Airbnbs being restricted in some areas. Is this affecting the availability of financing for short-term rentals?
Hey, Derek, that's a great observation, my man. Absolutely, in those areas it is, right? Because, if you can't run an Airbnb in that area, then you're not going to be able to get a mortgage for the Airbnb. So, yes, it is going to impact it, certainly regionally, and then everybody's watching the industry as a whole very carefully because there's a lot of pressure on the Airbnb owners right now from that standpoint, the regulation side of it. But some people are saying they should sell their properties so that there are more homes available to help with some of the supply. I'm not an advocate of telling people what to do with their hard-earned assets, so I'm not a big fan of that, but there are some murmurings. So yeah, that's a great observation. Everybody's kind of watching that carefully because the Airbnb thing exploded and the landlord loan was the primary source of capital for that. We're still financing Airbnbs with the landlord loan, but you're right. As these municipalities and these cities start to make changes, it might start to have a larger effect on the underwriting guidelines. So great observation, my man. I appreciate that one. Hey, Jen, do you have another question?
Here's one from Rita. We have a mortgage approval from our realtor's mortgage company, but it seems like the fees are high. We're not required to use them, are we? Can we get a second opinion without another hit to our credit?
Hey, Rita, great question. You are certainly entitled to shop until you drop, right? You want to make sure you're getting the very, very best deal. And we do that fee sheet review as a free service for our listeners. So you could go to mrmortgageradio.com and click on the fee sheet review link, and we'll be happy to look at it. So we can definitely give you a second opinion. We don't have to pull your credit. We can use your Credit Karma score, but we will at some point, if we're going to move forward, need to do a full credit evaluation. But one thing a lot of people are unaware of, not long ago, there were changes to the credit scoring and credit reporting that were designed to allow you to get multiple quotes, if you will, on a mortgage. So you can have, within a certain window of time, multiple mortgage inquiries that will only move your score that one increment. So I wouldn't be as fearful to have somebody take a look at my credit to give me a very accurate quote. but you can certainly do it with something as simple as your Credit Karma report. And we can do it that way. We can give you an idea that with this credit score, you should be looking at an interest rate of this and fees of that. And if you want to move forward, we could take it from there. But great question. And yes, you are entitled to shop that rate. You want to make sure you're getting, guys, when interest rates were low, the difference between 3.25% and 3.5% might not have mathematically made a huge difference, and things were going so fast that people weren't shopping. But now the difference between 7 3/8 and 7 3/4, that math starts to become more significant when we're starting at a higher number. So when things were low, everybody was happy just to get a low rate. But now we want to make sure all the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed, and that you're getting the very best mortgage deal that you can. So great question. I appreciate that. Hey, Jen, can you throw me another one? Okay, go ahead.
Fernando wants to know, how many rental units can I buy with a landlord loan? Can I have different partners in each property?
Hey, Fernando. Yes, you can have, if you're going to buy a property in an LLC, you could have a different LLC for each property with different partners. And it's not uncommon. It's not uncommon for investors to have 4 or 5 properties with this partner and a couple properties with that, and maybe I own a couple on my own. That's a pretty normal thing. To the number of properties with a landlord loan, this is likely going to pull back a little bit, but 30, right? That's a crazy high number. But as the credit availability is tightening a little bit, we see credit score requirements going up. We see loan to values coming down, and then it's likely that at some point in the future that number is going to be reduced a little bit. But brilliant question. I hope that helps you. If you want to talk it through in greater detail, just give me a call and I'll jump on the phone and we'll figure it out for you. Hey, Jen, throw me another question.
Here's a question from Shane. I heard your podcast about for sale by owner and a transaction coordinator. Is this the same as paying a buyer's realtor a commission? Where can I order the FSBOzilla book?
Hey, Shane. Great question. So there's a lot of moving parts to that. How to get the book, you don't have to order it. Just go to FSBOZILLA.com, and there's a big red button. If you click that button and give us your email address, they'll email you back the book and the 4 how-to guides. So if you want a copy of it for yourself, that's the easiest way to get it. It's an ebook, and then the 4 how-to guides are 4 individual PDF files as well. So that's the way you get the book. Back to your question about, is a transaction coordinator the same as using the buyer's agent, if you will, right? It's not. So in a transaction, if you're selling by owner, it's not uncommon for you to pay a buyer's realtor a commission, right? You're going to get a lot of phone calls. If you're using the FSBOzilla program, we'll get those phone calls for you. But a lot of interest is going to come in from agents, and the call goes something like, I've got a buyer. Would you pay a commission? And it's not uncommon to pay that commission. You're still saving a lot of money on the overall commission because you're not paying anybody on the sell side. But here's the thing, that buyer's agent represents their buyer. They're not representing you. So it's unlikely that they would want to manage the transaction for you for lots of reasons. So what I was talking about in that interview was we've onboarded transaction coordinators who you deal with directly. We're not getting a cut out of it, but you have a transaction coordinator on your side that manages all of the timelines, keeps everybody in the loop, makes sure the appraisal was done on time, the inspections were done on time, make sure that the earnest money has been given to the title company on time. They're managing all of the dates in the transaction, and they keep everybody in the loop. And they're relatively affordable. A lot of them are around $400, and you pay for it at closing. So that's the role of a transaction coordinator. They're not an agent representing one side or the other. They're in the middle, keeping everybody on task and keeping the transaction moving so that all of the timelines are met, so you're going to close on time. So I advocate for that. I think if you're not paying a big real estate commission, then that transaction coordinator might make a huge difference in saving you some stress. But I hope that helps. That is a great question, my man. We are getting a lot of interest in that program, so I'm talking about it more and more. But guys, you hear the music, you know what that means? We have wrapped up another week here at the Mr. Mortgage Show. Guys, if you need us when we're not in the studio, just visit MrMortgageRadio.com. That's MrMortgageRadio.com. All our contact info's there. All the stuff we talk about on the air is there. MrMortgageRadio.com. All right, guys, Jen and I will be back next week right here. Same bat time, same bat station. Have a fantastic week. We'll see you next time. Be good.
That's a wrap. Join Mark Eitel next week for more thrilling, edge-of-your-seat discussions about real estate and mortgages right here on The Mr. Mortgage Show.